Bandwidth for Changelog is provided by Fastly. Learn more at fastly.com. We move fast and fix things here at Changelog because of Rollbar. Check them out at rollbar.com. And we're hosted on Linode servers. Head to linode.com/changelog. This episode is brought to you by Rollbar. Move fast and fix things. Resolve errors in minutes and deploy with confidence. Head to rollbar.com/changelog. Request a demo. Get started today. It's loved by developers, trusted by enterprises, and most of all, we use it here at Changelog. Move fast and fix things with Rollbar. Once again, rollbar.com/changelog. Welcome to JS Party, a weekly celebration of JavaScript and the web. Tune in live on Thursdays at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern at changelog.com/live. Join the community and Slack with us in real time during the shows at the changelog.com/community. Follow us on Twitter. We're at JSPartyFM. And now on to the show.
Oh, yeah, the sound of those BMC beats means it's that time again, my friends. What time? Well, Unix time 152.476.2000, of course. Confused by that? Just put that in your date class and instantiate it. But make sure you multiply it by 1,000 first because JavaScript reasons. Hi, I'm Jerod Santo. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening in real time at changelog.com/live, but you're not chilling in the JS Party chat room in Community Slack, what are you waiting for? Go to changelog.com/community, sign up for free, party with us live as we record, and participate. The more, the merrier. We would love to see you in there. What is up, Kenna Downey? Thanks for making it. We have a lot of people hanging out in the Slack, and we're super excited today to have a special guest with us, Adam Baldwin, aka Evil Packet, head of security at NPM. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is super exciting.
Chris Hiller is also here. Chris, you go by Bone Skull on the World Wide Webs. I don't know why. Yeah. Give us a quick and dirty history on that handle.
Oh, boy. So have you heard of a web comic? It's an older one, White Ninja.
I have not.
Anyway, it's probably obscure, but there's a web comic called White Ninja, and people liked it, and there was White Ninja fan comics, and people would draw their own White Ninja comics and send them in. And so they would publish these, and one of those had a evil villain named Bone Skull, and I really thought that was a brilliant name for an evil villain, and so I adopted it.
So you're our evil villain then?
I suppose, yeah, sure.
Very good. Well, you need all kinds of roles around here, and Bone Skull, the evil villain, is an excellent role. Rounding out our panel this week is the incomparable Suz Hinton. Suz, how you doing, friend?
I'm doing very well today. Thank you.
So we're here today to talk about Node, and we're here to talk about security. But we can't claim that this episode was our idea because it was the brainchild of a longtime listener, Jen Turner. And I know that she's a longtime listener because she asked for this a long time ago. This was requested by Jen in our Ping repo over a year ago. And to tell everybody about Ping, that's a GitHub repo, github.com/thechangelog/ping, where you can request show ideas, tell us feedback. It's an open inbox. There's a JS Party label. So if you have ideas for future JS parties, hop over to that. There's a link in the show notes and submit, and maybe wait a year or faster. But this one took a year. Sorry about that, Jen. Your patience has paid off. And thanks for being an awesome part of our community. I'll just go ahead and read what Jen said verbatim, and we'll kick into the conversation. So she said she was catching up with Evil Packet, that's you, Adam, the creator of the Node Security Project and later Node Security Platform. And I think it would be cool to hear him talk about the security goings on. So Adam, tell us about the security goings on.
Wow, that's a very open-ended question, right? There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. We could probably talk for days on this subject. Let's see. So you've probably seen in the news that my team, Lift Security, recently joined NPM. That's probably the the biggest news that I have. That we joined NPM as part of their sort of security push, right? So we're now their internal security team as well as working on security product at NPM. So that's the starting point.
And when did that happen? Was that? I mean, this is all very recent, right?
A couple of weeks ago. We've been working with NPM since the company started. And fun story. My first contribution ever to open source was a pull request to the registry to fix a security bug.
Really?
So yeah, but we've been working with NPM for quite a while, but it's just been a recent announcement.
So what was that bug, and what'd you fix?
It was a cross-site scripting bug. Just if it was something with either rendering readmes or some portion of the package contents, if I remember correctly.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like cross-site scripting plus SQL injection is like 99%. I mean, okay, buffer overflows, of course, but that's like pretty much most of the vulnerabilities on the web are those things. Is that fair to say?
I don't know. So I spent the last 10 years doing application audits, right, with my team, and we saw just about everything you could possibly think of, right? I don't really think that one class wins, because we have assessments where we don't find cross-site scripting or we don't find SQL injection. We'll find some other bugs, right? Some exposed keys or who knows what, right? So it's really interesting kind of having to go now to being a defender, right? So for the last 10 years we've been offense, right? We've been working with companies to test their applications, and now we're focused solely on NPM and the ecosystem, and so now we're going to defense, and defenders have to worry about everything, right? If you pick one category is a great starting point, but you really have to worry about sort of all the various things.
So I had a question for you, Adam, about Node.js in particular. Given that you've worked with security for the last 10 years, you've sort of seen security before Node.js. Is there anything unique to Node itself with regards to vulnerabilities that you might not see in other ecosystems? Because a lot of the information that I've read online has really been just referencing some of the OWASP top 10 best practices anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything too unique to Node, right? Like developers have implemented all the various similar types of libraries and things as other languages. The OWASP top 10 doesn't do a good job of giving examples for us, for JavaScript, for Node. You see a lot of PHP and Java examples, and I think that's reminiscent of back when that project sort of like got its start. And so all of the same problems exist, and we do have some sort of unique things just because dealing with the asynchronous nature of JavaScript. I think the race conditions and those kind of things are more prevalent. So you can get weird, interesting security sort of behavior because of that. Probably one of the unique things, but the other thing too. With JS, I guess, if you think not Node specifically, but say NPM, right, is that we have this giant ecosystem of packages that we can sort of tap into to rapidly build our applications. With that I don't know if that's not necessarily unique, right? We have that for the other industries as well. But that's definitely we're the largest registry, so we make use of that within Node. But.
Totally. A really good point that Kevin, one of our other JS Party hosts, just came up in the chat was that the one thing that's kind of unique or weird about Node.js or installing packages with NPM is that a lot of those packages are used both on the client and the server, which introduces sort of some different things.
Yeah, because the security models in the browser as well as on the server are way different, right? So one piece of code might not be adequate in both places. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Another aspect of this that's perhaps makes security overwhelming to many of us is that it's not just our practices that matter. It's really, well, you just say the community's practices, because our dependencies practices matter, and our transitive dependencies and their dependencies and so on and so forth, they matter so much. I found this interesting quote in the NPM 6 announcement, which there's been some security stuff that you've done with NPM 6. Node 10 just came out. We can talk about like what's new and fresh there. But this was just an interesting statement out of the NPM 6 announcement that says 77% of developers expressed concern with whether the open source code they use is secure. But more interestingly, 87% expressed concern about the safety of their own code. Put another way, more developers trust the security of the open source code they use than they trust themselves.
I'm curious what Suz and Chris think. Do you agree with that?
I think I felt, well, I don't know. I mean, certainly for myself, I don't feel I'm a expert at security. Just as a software engineer, it, historically wasn't something in my career that I focused on. So from that end, I feel like, well, I don't know really what I'm doing. And so there's maybe, hopefully other people do. But then again, I don't think they do either. I don't think a lot of people do.
We're just making it up as we go.
I think that's a really good point. And I tend to be more knowledgeable around the IoT security side of things. So I won't say that I know a ton about web security. And to be honest, I really do rely on people that work in that field and that are passionate enough to be able to share things that make it easy for me to learn, at least the really important things to know.
This kind of goes to the two extremes of the programmer mindset, which I think Chris demonstrated there. And I know I've definitely had both of these thoughts. Yet on one side, you have not invented here syndrome, which tends to trust your own stuff better than other people's, right? And of course, that's a generic thing, but that applies to security practices as well. And then on the other hand, you have, I don't know, there's not as much of a nice term for it. Maybe there is, but it's kind of like the dependency hell side, where you always reach for somebody else's code over your own. And so that tells me that you don't have trust in your own software. You're just gluing bits together. And so it seems like we kind of waffle on who we trust, us or others. And like you said, Adam, maybe we are just mostly all making it up as we go.
I mean, I feel like I do trust open source software a bit more, just because there are eyes on it, especially if it's a mature, popular package. So those issues are going to get addressed eventually. Maybe, if there are enough eyes on it again. I mean,
right.
It could be open SSL. So
exactly.
But I think as a general rule, I would trust two similar projects. One's open source, one's proprietary. I would probably trust the open source one.
And you can look at systems holistically as well. I mean, I would turn to Node.js, for instance, and I would say there are definitely a lot of interested parties. NPM, of course, one of them, and Adam, you specifically, a contributor, who are like highly invested on the security of this thing. And so I would tend to trust it versus a similar project that wasn't so standardized or just broadly used, right? Like you said, the problem we got into, Chris, with OpenSSL is it was the worst of both worlds, right? It was like completely ubiquitous and also almost utterly unsupported. And so it really took everybody by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, that's another can of worms, like why that happens. But yeah.
Yeah, and there's no 100% guarantees, right? On either side, right? We're gonna find interesting ways to abuse software in the future, and so we can't really, be perfect forever, right? Something's gonna come along, it's gonna abuse our code, whether it's code we wrote or code somebody else wrote. And I don't think it's wrong to reach for somebody else's package, and reuse that code, right? But there's not a lot of guarantee that people are looking at the code just because it's open source, and I think that's something that I'd like to change, and incentivize eyeballs on those 675,000 packages.
Yeah, how much static analysis can you do of code that's already out there versus what things can't be picked up in an automated sense and genuinely need humans to look at it?
It's really hard. So we did some of that early on. That was the goal of the node security project really early on, was to surface sort of like hotspots. Like if you just look for childprocess.exec, for example, back when we started the project, there was 12,000 modules in the registry. So we could literally look at all of those modules and say, okay, which ones are using childprocess.exec? Oh, there's 600 of them. We could actually audit with humans every single instance of those, right? But as that scale, we've got that nice curve up and to the right, and we're growing extremely fast. We have to automate that, and the problem is that static analysis in JavaScript is really hard, and so it's not impossible, but it's really hard. So you really need humans to validate the results of the machine, right? The machine finds the hotspot, and then you put that into a queue for humans to look at. That's a really efficient way of doing it. We kind of shied away from that early on because we didn't want sort of like, are we just giving O days out there for people, and are they gonna contribute? Are they not? And that was sort of an interesting challenge that we had with the project, but it's still a really good method. But full automation, I don't think it's not going to be easy. Let's just say that.
That does make a lot of sense, especially given that JavaScript is very dynamic, so it would be quite difficult. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks.
Do we need more TypeScript in our life? Another can of worms?
I actually haven't spent a lot of time using TypeScript. I like anything that brings a little bit of safety in, although I do like I can do whatever I want mentality too. So, the developer in me wants to say, well, yeah, just let me do whatever I want. But the security person in me says, yeah, strong types are probably nice.
So panelist Nick Nisi in the chat and also in our idea document, I would call him a closet TypeScript fan, but he's not in the closet. He's out of the closet. He's a big TypeScript fan, and he's trying to have a show called TS Party, not a whole new podcast, but an episode of JS Party called TS Party. And so if you think that's a good idea out there in listener land, let us know. If you think it's a terrible idea, let Nick know, and we can pass on that one.
This episode is brought to you by the O'Reilly Fluent Conference. Make your plans now to attend Fluent in San Jose, California, June 11th through June 14th to learn the latest JavaScript tools and methods. Be part of what past attendees call, quote, a great center for modern web development and disruption, and, quote, the best place to see the current state of the web. Use the discount code JSParty to save 20% on most passes. Learn how to build a better web with better user experiences at O'Reilly Fluent Conference. Head to fluentconf.com to learn more and register.
Okay, let's talk about like the super fresh and new. We have Node 10, which just released. We have NPM 6, which I think was April 24th, which is 2 days ago. So this stuff is fresh. And Adam, some of you and your team's work with the node security platform is starting to make its way into NPM. Can you talk about NPM audit and the other security-related features that have been announced?
Yeah, as you can kind of expect with the acquisition of the node security platform, we're kind of wedging that work into NPM, and that'll make its way out as NPM audit. And the current speculation is that we're going to it's going to be very similar to what NSP was, which was you ran NSP on your project, and it gives you sort of that analysis of any of your dependencies deep down in the tree. Do they have a vulnerability or not? I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag quite yet, but we've added a twist to that. So we're gonna go a little bit deeper than what we were doing with NSP, and hopefully it's a better experience.
Can you give us a peek at the cat? Can you open the bag up and just let us look at the cat for a second?
We're gonna make Schrodinger's NPM audit, right? We're going to peek in, and we are going to see more actionable security alerts, things that are more actionable for developers, being able to instead of just being handed a pile of things that you really may not know how to handle. We're going to give you a little bit better guidance on that.
So as of right now, if I'm on NPM 6 and I type NPM audit, what exactly happens?
Right now, you're going to get an error message that the registry doesn't support NPM audit. But
okay,
that's because NPM 6, we're getting the client out in preparation to ship with Node 10, which didn't happen. But yeah, so right now you get that message that says it doesn't submit, doesn't currently support it. But after we get the backend piece out of beta, you run NPM audit basically on any project that's got package JSON and a package lock, and it's gonna do that analysis. So it's gonna submit that back to us. We'll run down through the tree doing some analysis, and then give you a result. We had an interesting question. Will registry mirrors be able to get the same audit features? We're going to have documentation on the API, so likely, they'll be able to take that bundle and do interesting things with it. It doesn't have to necessarily be a security audit.
And would you recommend that folks put this into their continuous integration system that they've set up?
Yeah, I mean, CI is going to be the best place to put this. If you run an NPM audit, it's going to happen also. So you also get, when you run NPM install, you're also going to get a summary of what might be lurking down in the dependency tree. So you'll get a summary that says we found 254 vulnerabilities, this many high, this many low. We analyzed 12,000 dependencies or whatever, right? You get that little summary when you NPM install, and so then during your CI process, you'd see that, and then during NPM audit, we could just have it exit code 1 and a failure build would be something to do. What I want it to be, though, is a good experience for developers, so that as they're NPM installing something, they know it's got a known vulnerability, or as they run an NPM audit, we want to keep those things out of the project, right? We keep things updated. So CI is a great place for it. Definitely going to support that tooling, and it's a natural place to have it. That's the majority of where NSP got put in. So I suspect we'll see that pattern quite a bit.
Very cool.
So let's say that I'm NPM audit is live and I'm using it and I'm enjoying its output. What are actionable mitigation steps, or how actionable do you think that mitigation will be when we find specifically transitive dependencies that are issues? Is it just don't upgrade, or is it remove a dependency? What are the kind of things that it will allow us to change to be able to take hold of our security with our dependencies in mind?
Yeah, well, what's nice is if you do have a package lock, right, and we know about a dependency deep down in the tree, we can tell you what dependency to update to what version, and we know the Semver ranges that the contracts that those dependencies have. So we'll be able to say update this dependency deep down in the tree, and it won't break the Semver contract. Of course, sometimes we don't have that. You just don't have a version that you can update to, or there's no fix out. And so in those cases, you do end up having to do a manual review yourself. And so, being able to have good recommendations on those security advisories, being able to understand what the impact is to you. If it's top level dependency, obviously that's easy for you to take action on. But if it's a transitive dependency, some low level dependency that you may not have the ability to update that, and that is a source of friction and something that we want to work on eliminating. That's really pull requests and getting dependence of packages to update as security vulnerabilities are published. So there'll be some work in that space as well.
Yeah, I've experienced that particular problem before, where a transitive dependency has some terrible problem. I mean, not necessarily a security problem, but there needs to be a chain of PRs happening to get that fixed, basically. And so, I've just kind of wondered how could NPM support or basically allow me as the package owner to go in and basically fix some deep dependency and have it stick. And I don't know. I guess I'm curious about how you might tackle that.
Yeah, I don't think we've got complete answers for that. That's kind of a management problem. I think we can do so with good tooling to let authors know or publishers know when they have something that's got an issue, and because we have that graph, right? We have the dependency graph. We know we know which places we have to push on, and which, as an example, if we updated this package, this version to support a certain dependency, we know the impact it has on that dependency graph. So we'll be able to focus those efforts a bit, which is nice. NPM audit is not going to naturally solve that problem. What it's intended to do is to for you to understand that dependency tree as a developer, to be able to take action where you can take action, and make security top of mind for developers as well. We have 10 million users, and making this security something that's top of mind to developers is going to raise the floor for everyone when people start becoming aware of these things. Education will happen. I suspect that you'll see some movement just naturally in the community when these things start becoming transparent.
I think this kind of gets into another question I had a bit about tooling. And so, you want NPM audit to be able to tell somebody that this dependency in that they have has this problem, and if there's a way to mitigate that, and show you how or whatever. But there's other tools right now. And, I've kind of struggled a bit, like, which one do I use? So there's like Sneak, there's NSP, there's, Lyft or not anymore. There's NodeSource has these certified packages. And I think even GitHub is doing some dependency analysis. It's like, which of these things do I use? Like, do they all keep their own database? Which is most accurate? What's better for open source? All these kinds of questions. Because I feel like a lot of people are trying to solve this problem, and I just, it's kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, that's you make a good point. There's lots of options out there, and one of the reasons when I started NSP, the first comment after we built kind of the prototype was, this belongs inside of NPM. And there's a reason for that. It's because that's the tooling that developers are using every day. They have to change no habits to become aware of security issues within their dependency trees, and that's why it's a good fit. So anything that can be seamless, where you and your team you don't have to spend time and energy on socializing new tooling or integrating something, that's a win for me.
I would tend to agree that NPM is the spot for tooling, like the best place for reasons that you said, for this particular thing. Anything else in addition to or expansions on NPM audit, things in development coming down the pipeline, tools that are security focused that people can look forward to?
Well, we've had a few other announcements. We obviously do have a lot more plans. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes that we really don't talk about, right? Like improving the application security practices within NPM and the infrastructure and all those things, because now NPM has an actual security team inside the company, which is fantastic. Things that we were doing externally, audits, we're now we're now doing them internally. So that's one sort of thing that's going on. But we also, CJ just announced, I think this last week, we're going to start signing packages. So we're going to be, PGP signing packages. So NPM is going to assert that, and you'll be able to verify that the package you received is the package that you should have received, and going beyond just SHA hashing, which is good because that also protects users that are using alternative clients like Yarn, right? So if you're using Yarn and you're getting you're proxied through the Yarn package domain, they technically control the tarballs and the hashes. While they're just a proxy, they could do more. And so we want users to be able to assert that the package you got from the registry is from the registry. Of course, this work will continue to hopefully allow additional signing in the future, but that's another piece that's coming. It's really interesting. Tierney asks about any plans for publisher signing, there's plans. The discussion has happened, right? It's been happening for many, many years, and I think these are the first steps to getting to that point.
So getting back to NPM audit, I'm going to represent K-Ball's question in the chat. He asks if there's any distinction between the quote, "These packages do not have known issues but have not been thoroughly reviewed," versus "These packages have been thoroughly audited." So trying to drill down at, if I run NPM audit, how confident can I be about the actual security?
So yes, it brings up a very good point, right? Just because it doesn't have any problems doesn't mean that somebody's actually looked for it. So right now that's a problem across basically all tooling. Unless you have somebody auditing those packages, you have no confidence. The Lyft team does auditing of the top 100 modules for the NPM Enterprise offering. So we do some thorough auditing of those packages and keep an eye on those. But there isn't a good indicator for thoroughly audited, right? And this is a challenge that we had early on. Like I at one point could tell you that Christopher, there is not a list of those NPM packages someplace. I could probably dig that up though. At one point, I could tell you that we audited every 12,000 of those modules early on for child process.exec. So I could tell you that we audited those for one thing. And so even then, there's going to be blind spots. So I think the goal being is to figure out how to incentivize those audit individuals to audit things. And then to figure out how to capture those efforts. It's going to be a challenge, and it's something that we're looking forward to as a challenge. But there's no tooling that really gives you that confidence level yet. And that's for me, that's frustrating. I know it can be frustrating, but we're going to expose all of the signals that we do have. So, and then right now we have the database, right? And I know there's some differences in those databases. Right now we maintain our database, which was at one time, point in time, donated to the Node Security, the Node JS Foundation, which sort of kindled and started up the Node Security Working Group. So they're maintaining kind of ecosystem reports right now, and so we do ingest some of that, as well as we have internal research that goes into our data set as well.
So I consume a lot of packages that have native modules, and I'm wondering whether or not you've had a strategy for those packages, or if that's going to change going forward, given that we have things like WebAssembly growing in popularity as well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic, and you have a whole different class of vulnerabilities you have to worry about, right? Where overflows and things like that matter, right? Parsing becomes a lot more difficult. You don't have the memory safety that you do. So The strategy has been, and John Lamondola, one of the Lyft team members now at NPM, built up a framework for fuzzing native modules. And we actually ran a class on it, and that content is out there someplace, where using a fuzzer like AFL to, write test harnesses for a module and then run, just thousands of hours of CPU over those, getting good coverage over all the logical conditions and throwing garbage input into it, right? That's the strategy there. If you're writing native modules, you should be fuzzing them. Obviously your regular test cases, but he ran thousands of hours over Node's HTTP parser, and a lot of the more popular modules found interesting exploitable modules for like BSON parsing modules, and I found some crashes for like Node SAS and things like that. But oftentimes, you also have to remember, this is the interesting sort of edge case or like sharp edge for modules, is that just because there is a bug and just because we can find it doesn't mean that it's either A, exploitable, and B, exploitable in the use case for that module. So you might say, well, I've got a bug that does a denial service for Node SAS. Well, how likely are you going to take user input on the server side and put it into Node SAS, right? Like usually that's a build time operation. So that's always a consideration when looking at the security of your dependencies as well, is do we reach that condition, right? Anyway, that's a little long-winded answer for native stuff.
No, that's a super interesting insight.
Thanks. Check out American AFL is the fuzzer for anyone doing native stuff. Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point about the context in which a module is used. For example, my project is a test framework, and certainly you're probably not going to expose that somehow to the greater internet. And so if I haven't had a security problem discovered in Mocha, but there have been security problems in dependencies of dependencies.
Right.
And then it's like, well, how important is this really? People are gonna want me to fix it or whatever, but it's like, yeah, it's a DDoS, but
it's not reachable.
Right. And it's not just, that particular module with the problem, but it's whatever module depends on that module might be in a different context. It's I don't know, it's kind of a tough call. And all you can really do is report that, okay, well, this thing has a problem. I suppose that, it might even be a severe problem, but for a module that uses that one with the issue, it might not be such a big deal.
Context does matter. Like you said, it matters a lot. And unfortunately, static analysis is with JavaScript is extremely difficult. So, but it's not impossible. So getting better signals is going to be an important part of future tooling for that. And it's also something, though, we're very conscious of, right? We thought that that was a common complaint, right? It was like, well, this is something that's used at build time, but at the same time, right? So developers also do ridiculous things with software, and so you might say, well, the common case, for Mocha is it's being used in this case where some developer might stand up a thing where you can plug in some stuff on a web page and run Mocha server side, right? It's possible. So, and if it's possible, likely somebody will do it. But always that's your individual threat model, right? So, for dependencies, just my general rule of thumb is keep things updated. Like it can't hurt, right? It is a maintenance burden, but it's also like we've got good language to say, well, okay, yes, you found this vulnerability. Yes, it's deep down in the dependency tree. It is not reachable. And that's something that we'll be working on, enabling developers to sort of signal those things within their packages so that can say, well, we looked at it, it's not a threat. And you don't have to answer that 25 times to, or 100 times to the community, right? Yeah, we're definitely aware of that, and we'll be hopefully helping to address that.
Hey everyone, I'm Tim Smith, senior producer here at Changelog. You know how important it is to stay in the know, and our weekly newsletter helps you and thousands of other developers do exactly that. It's the developer news that matters, nothing more and nothing less. Visit changelog.com and subscribe today.
All right, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We've had a blast talking to Adam about Node and security and NPM and all these things. But as you said, there's a lot that's like on the cusp of happening. NPM audit doesn't quite work yet. It's going to be there. We're going to have Adam back on a regular basis to talk about these things, answer our security questions, tell us what's new in Node. For now, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about wishful thinking. So the idea for this segment is we're to share and discuss projects that we've always wanted to start, but have never had the time or never had the inclination to get off the ground. Crazy ideas, big ideas, whatever they are. And it could be something that we hope a listener takes on and builds. If so, say that. Or it could be something that you still plan on creating. In that case, be aware that you are sharing it with a bunch of strangers. So maybe you should move fast because somebody else might like your idea as well. But let's see what we've been thinking of. Suz, let's start with you. You have any projects that you haven't quite gotten around to?
Yeah, this is going to be a weird one, but I think that's almost expected of me sometimes. So this is going to be like a hardware-related one, of course. But what I've wanted to do for a long time is to design like quite a small little circuit board that has a microcontroller on it and a little OLED screen or something like that, and then produce, a large amount of them. So let's say like 20 to 30 of them, arrange them all on one wall and then mesh connect them either with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something like that, and then just let them talk to each other and just create this continually evolving piece of software that allows them to all react to each other and show different things on the screen as a result of that. So this is going to be very expensive and take a lot of time and exploration. So I've just haven't been able to sit down to do it yet.
That sounds really cool.
Are you actually going to pull it off, or are you putting it out there and hoping someone else does it and you can just look at their results? Or are you going to do this?
I think it's just going to be so highly individual what someone writes. So what I would actually love to do is to design the PCB and make that be the open source part of it so that other people can then go and do that and then write their own software for it. So I'd rather that people were able to use that as a building block to then do their own, if that makes sense, because I think there's so many cool different interpretations you could do of this.
Have you done PCB design before?
Yeah. So I've done a few circuit boards, and they've mostly been artistic ones. So I have a profile on OshPark that I can actually share, but I've designed like a Met card shaped one from the MTA system in New York. And I've also designed one that looks like an anglerfish whose lure lights up when you hold a magnet near it. So I sort of want to take this to the next level and create a bunch that can actually like talk to each other rather than just one-off PCBs.
Would they take like environment input too, or?
Yes. So they would essentially have a bunch of pinouts that you could just plug different sensors or different outputs into. So they would be extensible ideally.
Could you somehow plug them into your body and have it gauge your mood or your temperature? And it could be like a big mood ring kind of a thing.
You might want to talk to Scott Hanselman about that, because he's done some really cool work to do with his own body and measuring levels of things as well.
I've got some friends with like the little chips in their hands, NFC or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Rachel White, one of the hosts, actually has one in her hand.
bring it back to security. I've heard people complain about the security aspects of those, and I'm like, it's a convenience feature. That's what it is, but it's super fun.
Very cool. Well, Suz, if somebody is interested in participating with you or building this thing, what's the best way to hit you up and talk to you more about this project?
Oh, you can just tweet at me. Honestly, I don't communicate via text message and very rarely by email. So Twitter is definitely the best way.
Okay. No Op Cat on Twitter. Hit her up and let Suz know if you want to participate in that project. Cool. Let's kick it over to Chris. Chris, my friend, what do you have? What do you not have that you wish you had out there in the software world?
Well, yeah. So I've been, like unfinished projects is just like I leave a trail of unfinished projects, but like I've been playing video games quite a bit in the past 6 months or so. Just kind of got back into PC gaming after actually, I don't know, maybe about 4 years of not really playing things much, and kind of discovered I really enjoyed roguelike games. And now I got this like bug, and I want to make a video game so bad. And I don't know where I'm going to find time. I mean, I got, a baby and a 6-year-old and, all these things. And so I'm not going to have time to make a game, but I would love to. I mean, I'd want to. I started looking at frameworks. I was like, okay, well, what can I make a reasonable game in JavaScript? And it's like, HTML5 games, I don't even know who plays those or where they go or anything. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I started looking at tools like Game Maker and Unity and stuff, and I don't know. I just want to go through the tutorials, and maybe that'll just satisfy me. But I want to make a roguelike with like, I don't know, stealth elements or something like that. That would be a ton of fun.
One way you might be able to find more time is to get your 6-year-old involved, and then you're not stealing time, you're making time together. You ever consider that?
Actually, no. I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, the biggest difficulty in that for me, I think, would be art, assets. And if my daughter could just draw stuff for me, and I could scan it and put it into the game.
Oh, I mean, she would love that. How cool would that be? She gets to draw something, and all of a sudden it's part of a video game. Yeah. It would also be, I think, maybe very endearing, like, to the players. Or not endearing, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that'd be cool to be like, yeah, this is all drawn by a young girl, and then her dad puts it into play. I think that'd be super cool. It
would definitely be a unique game, very unique appearance. I haven't seen anything quite like that, but then again, I stuck mostly to games on Steam and haven't really got into what indie developers are making. So I'm sure somebody's tried something like that. But that's a really good idea.
Cool. Let's pass it over to Adam. Got any wishful thinkings out there?
When you asked the question, I have this weirdest project that I've wanted to do that I've never. It's just more of an experiment to see if it's possible and how hard it would be. So I really like side channel like attacks, side channel like where you have an effect of temperature or timing or all kinds of weird things like that where like you can measure things. And so I've always wanted to know, like, basically I wanted to build an interface where it has you type a sentence, and as you're typing a sentence, you try to type another sentence using Morse code. So the timing between characters would be the signal for the other sentence. So basically, like, as you're typing, the cadence between the first letter and the second letter is either a dot or a dash, which would basically type the other thing. It would more of like a game or a challenge, right? Like, I always thought that would be fun to build, just like it wouldn't be that difficult, I don't think, but I think it'd be challenging to actually do, right? Having to first learn Morse code and then second being able to type at a cadence like that would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a ridiculous thing I thought of one time and never ever built it.
I learned enough Morse code to save myself in case my ship went down when I was a kid, which was SOS. Which the nice thing about that is you only really need 2 letters. You don't even need 3.
Right.
But I've since forgotten it. So if I'm in a sinking boat, I'm not going to be of much use. But I mean, who is? That's asking a lot, right? Jerod, you're not of much use in the sinking boat. It's like, I'm sorry, guys. I used to know SOS. Yeah, that sounds like an interesting one. Seems like that could be kind of a weekend hack. I mean, it's not like make a video game style scope. So I feel like you could pull that one together if you ever got around to it. So very good. That's definitely right in the wheelhouse of the stuff that we're talking about.
I don't have free time.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go last here. Most of my stuff that I don't build but I want to build is changelog related because I have part-time changelogger here, so we don't have full-time bandwidth. So there's lots of stuff that I would love to build and haven't got around to. And one of those things is very low priority because I don't even own an Alexa or any of the devices that Alexa inhabits, I believe is the word I was looking for. But I thought it'd be cool to have an Alexa skill, like, hey, changelog, play the latest JS party, that kind of a thing. And I hear it's really easy to do, and I'm sure it is. And I've never done it. Part of what slowed me down is I started thinking, well, all we need is a little API, which is pretty easy. Or I could do a GraphQL API, which would be a lot cooler. And then I'm like, okay, so now first I got to build a GraphQL API. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I should do it during our Monday afternoon live streams because that's very much a experimental live stream kind of a thing. And then I was like, well, that means I only get about 2 hours a week to work on this. And so I'm basically just like shoved a whole bunch of work in front of that work. So I thought it'd be cool to just make the API publicly available and then have one of our listeners perhaps contribute some open source. But that's why I haven't done it. Eventually, we'll have an Alexa skill.
I think Alexa actually integrates with some service that pulls podcasts, and you may be able to say, Alexa, play the latest episode of JS Party, and she will be like, yes, here it is.
Back when I first looked at it, those really sucked, and there was like a bunch of language in between you and actually playing it. But I'm sure it may have gotten better. Yeah, if we can just submit our feeds into an index, I could have this done by the end of the show.
Yeah, so I can't remember what service is used under the hood. Anyway, but yeah.
But I think I would also be more motivated if I actually owned an Alexa device, which I don't. So I don't really like that. Would probably push me over the edge because I'd be like, now I want to actually play with this thing, but I haven't gotten one. So. No dice. So that's it for me. Great show, everybody. Any last words, parting words, Adam? Thanks so much for joining us. We're excited that you're being so gracious to come back on a somewhat regular basis and keep us updated.
Yeah, this was exciting. This is fun. I love talking about security, and I love hearing the perspectives of other developers. The questions from the community were great. So this is fun.
All right. That is a wrap, folks. This party is over. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We will see you next week. Say bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to JS Party this week. Tune in live on Thursdays at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern at changelog.com/live. Join the community and Slack with us in real time during the shows. Head to changelog.com/community. And do us a favor. Share this show with a friend. Rate us on Apple Podcast. Go into Overcast and favorite it. And thank you to Fastly, our bandwidth partner. Head to fastly.com to learn more. And we move fast and fix things around here at Changelog because of Rollbar. Check them out at rollbar.com. We're hosted on Linode Cloud servers. Head to linode.com/changelog. Check them out and support this show. Our music is produced by Breakmaster Cylinder. And you can find more shows just like this at changelog.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
It's been a while since I've done this, since we quit doing double unders very frequently, but here's how it will work. We're going to count up 1 through 4 at like just a very basic cadence, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I will say 1. Adam, you will say 2. Suz, you will say 3. and Chris, you will say 4. And then we'll use those in post to synchronize them up. Everybody ready?
No, wait. What do you need me to do?